So, dear friends, I was talking to a friend of mine recently, and he said this in the parish pastoral council meeting. The question came up of everybody having a voice in the church, and this particular guy, he's a very good, faithful man. He said, yes, absolutely, we all have a voice in the church. And then a particular lady in the parish pastoral council said, well, sure, look, I mean, if we all have a voice in the church, and then we say that the church should change its teaching on X, Y, or Z, the church should ordain women, the church should do whatever, then of course the church should change. And then he said, well, we all have a voice in the church, but not all of our voices are equal. And all hell broke loose. Because it's an interesting thing. We get used to, in our modern society, everyone having to have a voice, and everyone's voice having to be equal in the church. But in no other facet of society does that work. So, in a family, you imagine you've got your parents and you've got your kids. And mommy says to little Johnny, Johnny, eat your breakfast. And Johnny says, no. And then mommy says, well, okay, if you don't eat your breakfast, that's fine. So Johnny, we're going to school. And then Johnny says, no. By the way, all 2-year-olds, probably 3-year-olds as well, their favorite word is no. Right? They have learned at that age that no is a very, very powerful word. It's because it gives you power. You stick your heels in, and now people have to try and convince you and change your mind. So no is their favorite word. Remember, one of my little nieces was going through her favorite word being no phase, and so they said, so we have to leave. No. So you want to stay at home? No. And so do you want to be all on your own in the house? No. So do you want to come with us? No. Do you want to get in the car? No. And then, my brother was a genius. He said, do you want ice cream? And the child now was so set on saying no that she had to go, no, and then burst out crying because of this inner conflict, So we have these kind of rebellious stages. But what's interesting is, you see, in any facet of society, in a family, yes, there are parents and there are children, all are of equal dignity. So the soul of a child and the soul of an adult is worth exactly the same. Equal dignity, but not equal responsibility. Right? Equal dignity. So everyone has a voice, of course. But not everyone has the same responsibility. It's the same in a school. If a teacher walks in and says, okay, lads, so what would you like to learn today? I can imagine Anthony would say, any chance we go watch a movie? Any chance of free class? I'm just feeling very stressed, miss. It's just a lot of pressure this year, miss. Could we have a free class, miss, or maybe a nature walk? I haven't done one of those since primary school. Can we go on a nature walk around, look at the leaves and everything? Do if teachers ask students, what do you want to do? Invariably they will say, nothing, miss. So yes, everyone is equal in the classroom, but the teacher has a greater responsibility. So we have to be careful of that also in the church. You think Tesco's works the same way, right? Every bank works the same way. Every shop works the same way. Everyone is equal, but there's different levels of responsibility. And so it is also in the church. Everyone is equal, but there are different degrees of responsibility. So not everyone's voice has the same weight. But yes, everyone can talk. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. But not everyone's opinion has the same weight. If the Pope says something that has a very, very different weight to me or to you, if the Pope declares something ex cathedra, then it becomes a dogma for all the faithful to believe. There is no single person or group of people on the earth who can do that. So the Pope's voice is far more important. It carries far more weight, but he also has far more responsibility. And this is something that's in our society is kind of strange, I think, because life is so comfortable for us and because things are so easy for us. We want freedom, but we don't want the responsibility associated with freedom. Think of the French Revolution, right? Liberté, égalité, fraternité. So we want to be free from the shackles of the government and the monarchy, and free from the shackles of the church. Okay, so we want freedom. That sounds good because yes, God has created us to be free. But if that freedom means now I'm killing off nuns and killing and beheading priests and now something is wrong. Hold on, why? In order to attain freedom, I'm killing harmless nuns, and something has gone wrong here. So it's not just freedom to do what you want. And this is important that we understand this here. What is liberty? What is it for? So in a Christian understanding, we should be free to pursue virtue. So liberty, authentic liberty, positive liberty, is the freedom to pursue virtue. So I should be free to marry who I wish, if I was single and not a priest and so on. I should be free to marry who I wish. I should be free to travel. I should be free to work. I should be free to get an education. If the government said, no, women can't get an education, or men can't get an education, or foreigners can't get an education, then there'd be something wrong. We should be free to pursue virtue. And knowledge is a virtue. So we should be free to pursue these things. Great. In the modern world, though, there tends to be more of a negative understanding of liberty. So it's kind of what we define as negative liberty, is freedom from personal restraints. So you shouldn't be able to tell me what to do. Again, that sounds good, but it's a really childish understanding of freedom. You shouldn't be able to tell me what to do. What if that person is in a position of responsibility? I mean, are the police allowed to tell me that I'm not allowed to drive at 100 kilometres an hour in front of a school at 2 o'clock in the afternoon? Are police allowed to tell me that? Yes, they are. You know, are the government allowed to say, within reason, that you have to pay your taxes? Well, they're a legitimate authority. So as long as they're legitimate and as long as they're honest, yes, we won't go into the details of rebellion against that, but okay. But in our modern society, we want to be able to drink and get drunk and still have our jobs and still drive. We want to be able to sleep around with no responsibility for the consequences of getting people pregnant. We want freedom with no responsibility. And that's, as I say, it's a very childish understanding of freedom. That's not an adult, mature understanding of freedom. And in the church, that's wreaking havoc as well. Everyone wants to be heard, and everyone wants their voice, but no one wants the responsibility before God. When I die, before God, I'm responsible for how I have behaved as a priest as regards you. When a bishop dies, he is responsible before God for his guidance of that diocese. The parish pastoral council are not. A diocesan council are not. The bishop is. You know, so yes, you may think, oh, they have a more important voice or a louder voice, if you will. Yes, but they have greater responsibility before God. To whom much is given, much is expected. So now, all of you, after doing a year of faith formation, more has been given to you. So more is expected of you. More is expected of you. When we become priests and religious, more is expected of us because more has been given to us. We have greater responsibility. If a priest gives bad example, that can wreck a whole parish. If Bridie the sacristan gives bad example, it's not great, but it won't wreck the parish. So more responsibility, yes, but more responsibility also before God. So that's why all of us, especially those of us who have come through Holy Family or those who are religious, we must live a life above reproach. So that if people dig into our past and dig into our history, they'll only find more and more examples of sanctity, not the opposite. And this holds us to a higher standard. We're held to a higher standard, and yes, it's difficult. And yes, it's annoying. Sometimes maybe you just want to do something stupid. But we're held to a higher standard because much has been given to us. And so we're responsible for that before God, which is actually, in a way, a good thing. Someone should be willing to say, we should be willing to say, like St. Paul, look at the example of my life and follow that. So it's not just look at all the words I preach and look at whatever, how I dress or whatever, but look at the example of my life and follow that. And that's what makes us credible witnesses. That's what makes us ultimately good missionaries. It's not that we know lots of stuff. It's not that you can speak Greek or Hebrew or can quote the catechism cover to cover. It's helpful. It's good to know that kind of thing. We should know what the church teaches. But ultimately, that's not what makes you a good missionary on its own if we don't live it. We must practice what we preach, or it's just blah, blah. It's just religious mumbo-jumbo. We must practice it. And that's why from the beginning of early monasticism, ora et labora, work and prayer. Always balance the two. If you keep hiding in the chapel, you don't want to help anyone, not good. If you want to help everyone but you never want to pray, not good. Give God what he's due. Serve your mission. Do both. Do both. Balance them. And that's what we're constantly striving for and maybe struggling against a bit in religious life, and for all of ourselves here as well, trying to balance both. You know what I mean? We shouldn't be so hilfsbereit, they say in German, ready to help. We shouldn't be so ready to help that we don't want to pray. But also we shouldn't be hiding in the chapel when people need help out there, you know? It's both. Do both. And this is the constant balance we're seeking, so that we can understand authentic liberty. Right? The freedom to pursue virtue, not the freedom from responsibility. So we ask the Lord today, as we embark on another week of preparation and formation, that we'll see our time here as a great privilege, as a great opportunity to learn what true freedom is, and that we'll also recognize that this does increase our responsibility, and therefore it increases our need for God, which is good. It's good that our need for God increases. Otherwise, we're counting on ourselves. And then may we, like St. Jerome, the saint that we celebrate today, who famously said, ignorance of Scripture is ignorance of Christ, may we come to know, love, and serve him with an ever greater portion of our hearts. Amen.